Dr. Holly.
Jim, how you doing?
Good afternoon to us all. It is now 3:00 p.m., and so we will now begin the Board of Police Commissioners meeting for Thursday, September the 28th, 2023. We'll call that meeting to order, and we'll begin with invocation, which we'll receive by Chaplain Curtis, who is joining us by Zoom. Chaplain Curtis?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening, esteemed Board of Commissioners and all of the attendees. Just want to go before the Lord in prayer today. Father God, we invite you into the presence of this meeting. We ask that you be in this space, and we ask that the agenda that is set forth is accomplished with pinpoint accuracy. We ask that you touch each member and each attendant as they go forth and they speak, and that they be acknowledged in all that you do for this committee. Continue to grant foresight and wisdom, Father, for the necessary processes that will be established for the greater improvement and empowerment of the city, the committee, the citizens, and the police department as a whole. And we will continue to give you honor, glory, and praise always. Amen.
Man, thank you so very much. And now we have the introduction of our commissioners by Secretary Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Quantes Presley,
Here.
Vice Chair Jim Holly,
Here.
Commissioner Linda Bernard,
Attorney Linda Bernard, District 2, present.
Commissioner Cedric Banks,
Present.
Commissioner Willie Bell,
Present, District 4.
Commissioner Willie Burton, Commissioner Lisa Carter,
Present.
Commissioner Ricardo Moore indicated that he would be late, Commissioner Annie Holt,
Here, at large.
Commissioner Jesus Hernandez.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. At this time, we will move to the approval of the agenda for September the 28th, 2023. Is there any objection?
So moved. Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Carter?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to remove the budget amendment proposals as the Budget Committee has not met with Mr. Freeze. And
There's-
we'd like an opportunity to.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to remove the budget amendment proposal from the agenda until they have met with the Budget Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. That motion passes. Now we will vote on the approval of the agenda for the agenda for September 28th, 2023 as amended. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the agenda is approved as amended. And now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes for the September 21st, 2023 meeting. Is there any objection? Hearing none, those minutes will be approved. Now we'll have the introduction of BOPC staff, Chief of Police, elected official representatives, and community leaders by Secretary Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For BOPC staff, we have present with us today Chief Investigator Jerome Warfield, Ms. Teresa Blossom, Ms. Jonia Underwood, Ms. Candace Hayes, Mr. Robert Brown, Mr. Drew Freeze, and Ms. Jasmine Taylor. We have also present Supervising Investigator LaSonia Sloan, Acting Supervising Investigator Elgin Murphy, American Sign Language interpreters, scheduled here for Ms. Yakata and Dr. Stephanie Beatty, and we have them on the way. And then we also have DPD HR Director Katrina Patillo on Zoom. Don Handyside is our court reporter. We have Cy providing video and Sergeant Alan Quinn providing audio. Deputy Chief Franklin Hayes is sitting in for the chief today. For elected officials and representatives, we have Ms. Marie Overall, State Representative Tyrone Carter's office, Ms. LaDon Davis from City Council Member Fred Durhall III's office, former Commissioner William Davis, Ms. Fredia Butler, Community Relations President for 2nd Precinct, and Mr. Ron Thomas, DPOA Vice President.
Thank you. And again, we are grateful for everyone's participation at today's meeting. It is our hope that it will be productive in moving the business of the Board of Police Commissioners forward. At this time, we're now at the BOPC Officers Report, where we first have the opportunity to commend a retiring lieutenant. And so we will have Commissioner Holt to read that resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Resolution honoring Lieutenant Sherelle S. Stanley. Whereas Sherelle S. Stanley was appointed to the Detroit Police Department on June 24, 1996. Upon graduating from the Detroit Metropolitan Police Academy, Officer Stanley began her career at the 10th Precinct. And whereas Officer Stanley's assignments with the Detroit Police Department included the 10th Precinct and Legal Advisors Section, and whereas Officer Stanley displayed tremendous knowledge and leadership skills as a police officer and was promoted to the rank of investigator on January 22, 1999. As investigator, she was assigned to the Law Department Police Unit. On August 11, 2000, Investigator Stanley earned promotion to the rank of sergeant and was transferred to the 12th Precinct, and whereas Sergeant Stanley was promoted to the rank of lieutenant on December 21, 2010, and was assigned to the 10th Precinct. Her other assignments included the Communications Operations, 6th Precinct, 2nd Precinct Investigative Operations Unit, Training Academy, Records and Identification, Office of Civil Rights, Internal External Relations, Chief Neighborhood Liaison, and 2nd Precinct, where she served until her retirement. And whereas Lieutenant Stanley was instrumental in creating the Detroit Police Department's Committee on Race and Equity, CORE. Their mission is to increase awareness, safeguard equality and equity, and celebrate the strength of diversity. CORE also provides a safe haven where members can constructively dialogue in a forum that is non-judgmental, intended to preserve the dignity of each member by promoting honesty, inclusiveness, and courage to facilitate the positive change. Whereas Lieutenant Stanley was the deserving recipient of the following awards: 3 Chiefs Merit Awards, Ford Fireworks Award, both Consent Judgment Awards, Major League Baseball All-Star Recognition Award, Rosa Parks Funeral Recognition Award, Super Bowl 40 Recognition Award, and Aretha Franklin Funeral Recognition Award, as well as numerous letters of commendations from citizens and superiors. And whereas Lieutenant Stanley has tirelessly served the Detroit Police Department, the citizens of Detroit, and its neighboring communities for more than 27 years. She has served the Detroit Police Department and the citizens of the city of Detroit with loyalty, professionalism, integrity, and dedication, and is widely respected throughout the law enforcement community as the consummate professional. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners, speaking on behalf of the citizens of the great city of Detroit, recognizes and honors the lifelong contributions and commitment to excellence in public service of Lieutenant Sherelle S. Stanley. Her display of courage and unwavering community spirit has improved the quality of life for the citizens of Detroit. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors. We thank and congratulate Lieutenant Sherelle S. Stanley.
Thank you. The chair now entertains a motion to receive this resolution into our archives.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion passes. Again, congratulations to Lieutenant Stanley on your retirement.
She's here.
She's here?
Can she stand?
Why don't you stand so that we can honor you? Thank you so very much for your tireless service. Make some brief remarks.
Thank you so very much. And I also thank the citizenry who are in attendance, making a huge difference. My mother says, but for the rebels, nothing will ever change. I want to give thanks to the Lord, my Savior, Jesus Christ, for bringing me to retirement.
Right.
And again, I thank the board for this resolution. I'll revisit this at a later date, but just real quick, I did recently submit a correspondence to the board to consider assembling an advisory board made up of both sworn and non-sworn members. I want to supplement that by making a recommendation that you also add retirees to that advisory board to provide some insight with respect to the oversight that the board is obviously charged with, tasked with doing. I am more than willing as a retiree now to participate, and again, I'll follow up at a later date. But thank you so much once again. God bless you.
Thank you.
you for your
Bless you
service.
as well. And we would take that recommendation into consideration. All right, and then also on the Board of Police Commissioners report, let me say that there are 2 items that I'm looking forward to bringing to the board next week. It has become the custom that on a monthly schedule, I think we've had 2 meetings now, that myself, the vice chair, and the past vice chair has the opportunity to meet with the mayor. And as an act of transparency to this board so that you all are aware of what is going on, Secretary Shaw has prepared some minutes so that you all can be aware of what is being discussed. And so we'll make sure that we distribute that. In that same manner, as I have stated last week, we have continued conversations about getting an acting attorney on the board until we can solidify our processes. I'm confident in the person that has been recommended. But I want to wait until her documentation is before you because I know how this board operates, and we like to see the resumes and the credentials and the like, and so that will be prepared for us for next week's meeting as well. And so I did want to provide that update to my colleagues relative to our meeting with the mayor as well as the conversations around an acting attorney. With that, we will now move on to our community impact report. Chief Investigator Warfield.
Mr. Chair, for the community impact report, would you like this distributed or just on a by request basis?
Just by request basis, please.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
1 second, Chief Investigator. Yes, Vice Chair Holly.
I see the staff guys' masks on, and I want to know something I need to know.
Well-
I'm just, it's okay, but I need to know, do I need to go and get a mask or something?
Well, it is not a stated policy, but there is a data that's suggesting that, COVID is around. And so I'm just sure it's a precautionary measure by our staff, but there's no mandate or no outbreak that has occurred that's forced that. They're just being cautious. And so if you desire to be cautious, I encourage you to get your mask as well. Chief Investigator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And had a COVID test today, and I'm good. I'm clear. I'm negative.
All right.
All right. Well, I want to give this community impact report in response to the questions that came out of last week's meeting as relates to the number of cases, backlog cases in OCI. And so while researching the backlog situation, I found, as I said last week, 3 cases that were closed in the database but not completely investigated. And I shared that information with the secretary who ran the query. And when she ran that query, she found 711 cases that were closed with no findings. After further research, we are confident that at least another 256 cases were not investigated and was not signed off by commissioners, but they are closed. I asked some of the investigators in the office questions about these cases who indicated to me that they were told by leadership at that time to turn in specific list of cases. Many of those cases are on that list of 256. Then I was informed that one of the processes for closing cases was to bulk close cases that based on a preliminary review that was out of the scope of OCI. Per the memorandums, and we found these memorandums just yesterday, OCI only investigates allegations of misconduct and not allegations of arrest, demeanor, dissatisfaction with DPD's investigative services, failure to receive updates regarding the case investigation progress and/or other procedural-related concerns involving DPD investigations and police operations, but not rising to the level of police misconduct. That was a quote from the memorandum. The letter that at least some of these citizens received as a result of these investigations indicated that their complaint is out of the scope of OCI. However, if a case is not fully investigated, how can one ascertain that there was no misconduct? In addition, the city charter states the board shall receive and resolve, as provided in this charter, any complaint concerning the operation of the police department and forward all allegations of criminality to the appropriate internal or external law enforcement agencies for further investigation. Further, the OCI standard operating procedures indicate the following areas of concern, allegation, are set forth in a citizen complaint and are investigated by OCI, and that is arrest, demeanor, entry, and harassment. Additionally, under the findings section of the letter, of the bulk report memo, it says the complainant investigations shall be closed immediately, forwarded to DPD for further resolution and action, or closed without further action from the OCI respectively. And when I did my research in the office and house, I did not find any records of those cases that were forwarded on to DPD. What I would like to ask the board is that you would begin to consider approving reopening all of the cases that are identified as closed but not investigated. And certainly we have documentations to support what we saw in the office and in the files for your review.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from my fellow commissioners regarding the Chief Investigator's report?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Burton?
I like to make a motion at this time, if you allow me to make a motion that we reopen those cases that the chief investigator just pointed out. I think it's very important that we do that as a body.
Second.
There's been a motion, and it has been seconded to reopen the, I want to get the number right, is it 258?
No, it's 967. It's 711 and 250.
Point of order. Let the chief investigator respond to the amount of cases that are being requested to be reopened.
Thank you, through the chair. At this time, it's 256. I do want to caution the board, though, that it could be a lot more.
Okay, and so we'll start with the 256 that has been presented to us today. Any discussion?
Yeah, just quickly, I don't understand, Chief Investigator, because you started your presentation by saying that there were 711 cases closed without investigation. Then we switched to a separate number, which has nothing, 256. That's how I came up with 967.
Through the chair, if it's okay to answer.
Yes.
One of the things that we looked at, Commissioner, was some of the cases were included on the bigger list, the 711 list. And what I did, I was not able to check all 716 cases. I spot checked. I checked all of the 256. So all of those 256 cases that I checked, none of those cases were fully investigated, and none of those cases had commissioner's signature. I did not have the time or capacity to go through all 716, but I am very confident that those 256 are the cases that do not have any commissioner's signature and they were not fully investigated. I did spot check other cases, though, within that 716, and spot checking the other cases, I did not see any cases that had signatures traditionally the way those cases are signed as we are passing them out to you and you give them back to us. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Further discussion.
In discussion, yes.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to state that, when we talk about citizens' lives here in the city of Detroit that makes complaints, we ought to do our due diligence and investigate those complaints thoroughly. These are citizens' voices often being shut down, and I think that the board will be doing the right thing by reopening those cases at this time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, again, there's a motion on the floor to reopen the 256 cases that has been presented to us by Chief Investigator Warfield. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. That motion passes. Those cases will be reopened. Is there anything else in the community impact report? All right, hearing none, we're now to our Chief of Police report, and we're glad to be joined by DC Hayes. It's on you, sir.
Thank you, Chair Presley, and to this honorable body, and to our members of the community that are watching. My name is Franklin Hayes, Deputy Chief of the Detroit Police Department, and I'll be presenting to you the Chief's report for today. I want to start off with our staffing. As our officers that are injured and unable to serve, we currently have 3 who are disabled and recovering at home due to an on-duty injury. 1 officer for the 9th Precinct who back in August was while responding to a shot spotter run, was shot in the leg while on duty. He is still at home recovering. And additionally, there were 2 officers that were rear-ended by a motorist while conducting a traffic stop on the city's west side on September 24th. Both officers are at home and recovering and doing well, but it will be a moment before we see them back in uniform, back on the streets. To talk about our crime data, our homicides year to date, we are at 198 this year compared to 218 last year. That's 20 less victims of homicide here in our city. Our non-fatal shootings, we are at 704 last year. We are at 646 this year. I'm sorry, that's 58 less. Robberies, we are seeing an uptick over last year. We had 1,005 last year. This year we are at 1,059 for 54 additional robberies. And our carjackings, we are down 30%. Last year we were at 182. This year we are at 127, which is 55 less. Our overall part crime, violent crime, part 1, we are looking even. Very close to even, should I say, over incidents combined. We were at 9,420 last year. We are at 9,424. We continue to do the work, encourage better decision-making, but yet hold those accountable who are committing these heinous acts on our community, and we still have more work to do. A couple other initiatives that I just wanted to discuss. We continue to run our drag racing enforcement detail. And just year to date, we have investigated 547 individuals, 292 traffic stops, 157 citations. We investigated 344 vehicles. We impounded 31 vehicles. We also recovered 6 stolen, 5 were forfeited. We made 23 felony arrests, 5 misdemeanor arrests. We recovered 10 illegally possessed firearms and responded to 271 police runs or calls for service while on this detail. One of the other efforts that we continue to do our very best in partnership with DWIN and other mental health providers are responding to those that are in crisis with this mental health epidemic that we're experiencing. Just to share our year-to-date numbers, last year, we answered 9,566 calls with a mental health nexus. This year, we've answered 10,663, over 1,000 more calls with a mental health nexus that our members have responded to here in the city. A few significant incidents that we'd like to share. We could certainly use the community's help as we still work to solve these crimes. And the first one is a fatal accident that occurred on Friday, September 22nd at 1:06 a.m. In the 18,000 block of Conant. Officers arrived at the scene, observed a black Dodge Durango against a utility pole at Conant and Kolsch. Officers then observed the victim lying on the sidewalk near the crash site, suffering multiple injuries. The medics came, and the injuries that this individual on the sidewalk had sustained were incompatible with life and was declared deceased on the scene. Detectives from our fatal squad responded, and in speaking with witnesses, they observed the victim's vehicle traveling north on Conant at a high rate of speed. He then made a right turn and headed east on Kolsch. While attempting the turn, the victim's vehicle struck the utility pole, causing the vehicle to flip multiple times. The victim was ejected from the vehicle and was injured on impact. Witness also stated that two unknown individuals exited from the Jeep Cherokee parked nearby and approached the victim. Both suspects were armed with assault rifles. The two individuals stated that they were just checking on the victim, then left the scene and traveled northbound in this white Jeep. Detectives had also received information that the incident may have started at a nearby Coney Island related to a disagreement over some stolen Cartier glasses. The DPD is asking for anyone with additional information in this incident to call either Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK-UP or our homicide section at 596-2260. Another incident is a quadruple shooting with one fatality that occurred on September 23rd at 2:27 a.m. in the 17,000 block of West 7 Mile. Officers responded to the scene and observed two victims lying on the ground behind a food truck. Victim 1 suffered a gunshot wound to the back, and victim 2 suffered from gunshot wound to the leg and chest. The medics arrived on the scene and transported both to Sinai Grace. Victim 1 was pronounced dead on arrival, and victim 2 was listed in temporary serious condition. While officers were preserving the scene, victim 3 returned to the location stating that he was shot in the back. The medics arrived to the scene and treated victim 3, who had sustained a graze wound. We were also notified by dispatch that victim 4 had arrived at the hospital stating that he was shot at the incident location. Victim 4 was transported privately to Sinai Grace with multiple gunshot wounds to the body. Victim 4 is in critical condition. Detectives from the Homicide Task Force were notified and responded to the scene. And what we got from witnesses were that, that victim 4 got into a fight with the suspect when the suspect pulled out a handgun and started randomly firing shots, injuring all the victims. The suspect left the location in an unknown make or model vehicle traveling eastbound on West 7 Mile. This is still an active and open investigation. Anyone with information regarding this incident, we are asking that you contact Detroit Police Homicide or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK-UP. One last incident, and that occurred a double shooting, one fatal. One of the victims suffered fatal injuries, and this occurred on Sunday, September 24th, 2023, in the 17,000 block of Schaefer, when officers were dispatched to Sinai Grace Hospital to take a gunshot report for two victims who walked into the hospital for treatment. Victim 1 sustained a gunshot wound to the back and was listed in temporary serious condition. Victim 2 sustained multiple gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead on arrival. Victim 1 stated that he and victim 2 were leaving the Comfort Zone nightclub when someone began firing shots from inside the club. Victim 1 could not describe the suspect, and detectives from the 12th Precinct and Homicide arrived to investigate the scene. The detectives found some evidence that a shooting had occurred at the location, and the witnesses at the scene could not provide information to assist in the investigation. So this is still an active investigation. We ask that, again, anyone with information on this incident, contact Detroit Police Homicide or also Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK-UP. As an after-action item in relation to the last shooting, with Chief White's commitment to holding venues responsible when they open their doors for business and welcome the public in, there's a responsibility to foster a safe environment. So from the shooting, we responded to that location in coordinated efforts with BSEED and found that this business was not properly licensed to be open. And as such, the building was closed. The business was shut down for being improperly licensed. There's a pathway if they want to reopen, but the operator of this venue was held responsible as well for those actions for operating this unlicensed business. We have a new installation of a soft interview room at headquarters. On Wednesday, through a partnership with Project Beloved, DPD installed a soft interview room at Detroit Public Safety Headquarters. And this is for victims of sexual assault. Project Beloved is a nonprofit organization that strives to educate, advocate, and collaborate to change the conversation about sexual assault and empower survivors to share their voices. Project Beloved provided DPD with everything for the room, including furniture, blankets, rugs, and art. This is the first and only soft interview room installed here in the state of Michigan. Chief White hosted a youth engagement summit yesterday at Wayne County Community College. This event allowed for discussion of issues of safety and concern from the youth's perspective. Chief White led a panel discussion with several community members and also other officers to educate the youth. It was highly attended, and we are certainly viewing that as a success, as we believe we have met our goals of encouraging and educating our youth to make better decisions for both their health as it relates to drug abuse or use, alcoholism, certainly bullying, cyberbullying, the power of social media, and not to be influenced negatively and encourage bad decision making. So we believe that it certainly made an impact, and we look to continue to have future dialogue with our youth and our young leaders here in the city. We are having a one-day hiring fair, September 30th here at Detroit Public Safety Headquarters from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. There are more than 100 Detroit Police Department opportunities available to apply for. The process of the one-day hiring fair will include same-day interviews, a medical screening, physical agility, written tests, and an application orientation. Those interested, please call Detroit Police Recruiting at 313-596-2607 to register for this event. And there are also civilian opportunities at www.detroitmi.gov/jobs or call 313-596-2730. And lastly, on Saturday as well, DPD's partnership with DMC's Rehabilitation Institute of Michigan will host the Heart Diggity Dog 5K Run and Walk at 9 a.m. at the DMC Heart Hospital located at 311 Mack Avenue. All proceeds go to the Detroit Public Safety Foundation and the Michigan Humane Society. Registration for this event is $40, and you can sign up on DPD's Facebook page. For more information, please contact the Chief Neighborhood Liaison Office or Lieutenant Star Gonzalez at Gonzalez, Gonzales, as in Sam, 580 at DetroitMI.gov. Mr. Chair, that completes the Chief's report, and I will gladly field any questions that this body may have.
Thank you. First of all, let the record show that Commissioner Burton and Commissioner Hernandez has joined us. And so are there any questions from my colleagues? Commissioner Banks.
Through the chair. Deputy Chief Hayes, I didn't have no question, but what I wanted to do, I wanted to commend DPD on yesterday for the incident on Gratiot and State Fair where the 9th Precinct was driving down the street. And if you could, please get this back to the chief, if you could, please. Where 9th Precinct was driving down the street, and there was a gentleman jimmying, trying to get into his car. He didn't have the keys. He was jimmying his car. And the 9th Precinct officer asked him what he's doing and what's his name. He didn't want to give up his name. So 9th Precinct was working with him. And it turned into a confrontation when they got out the car. There was many citizens around. They began to jump in this altercation. There was one citizen, he came from behind and got the Detroit police officer in a bear hug. But then it came back to his right senses and he backed off. So about 2 minutes later, what he did was he did it again. When he got him in another bear hug from behind. The officer handled himself very well. He was very well poised. He didn't tase him. He didn't pull out no gun. He didn't shoot him. And I thought that was really wonderful, the way DPD handled themselves under major conflict. Can you please get that back to the chief for me, please?
Through the chair, certainly, Commissioner Banks, I will relay your observations to the chief. As that matter is an active investigation, we can't discuss it at the moment, but an opportunity to share your comments. I will make sure that the chief receives them.
Okay. Now, it was on the news.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good to see you, though.
My pleasure,
My
sir.
man.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Bernard.
Several things, and it's a pleasure to see you,
Yeah, definitely.
Deputy Chief Hayes. I might remind our viewing and obviously our audience that's present, that you are the only deputy chief in the city of Detroit, as I understand it, under Chief White. Everyone else is an assistant chief. Am I correct in that?
Through the chair, there are 5 deputy chiefs.
Okay, so 5 deputy chiefs, okay. So I thought, okay, and in any event, I want to congratulate you again, not even again, because this is brand new, that you've just been appointed to the board of the association's Hall of Fame of the Michigan Trap Shooting Association. After shooting, I've forgotten how many thousand rounds of ammunition at traps, and that's significant. One, because there's never been a black man that's done it, and secondly, you were also elected the president of the National Trap Shooting Association, which has nearly 100,000 members. So I'm going to congratulate you on that again. But my questions relate to an article that was in the paper this past Sunday about police officers serving personal protection orders. Obviously, the recommendation, it was a fairly long article, was that police officers serve personal protection orders because it protects women more than when they're just served by a process server. I wanted to know, I don't even want your comment on that right now. I'd really like you to take it back and examine the feasibility of that. It's a good idea. It's done in other communities, but we need to see the feasibility of doing that here in Detroit. And rather than an off-the-cuff answer, I'd like an informed answer, if that's okay with you. Secondly, the soft interview room is an interesting concept. I'm not aware of it, but I think it's a good idea. I assume you'll be using it for children who are victims, as well as women who are victims, or anyone who's a victim, male or female, of sexual assault. Is that what you're going to be doing?
Through the chair, so just if I can go in line with your question so I don't lose track. As it relates to the PPO service, we'll certainly take that back to Chief White as well as our Chief Legal Advisor, Grant Ha, and see if there's an opportunity there, and then that informed conversation can happen. As it relates to the soft interview room, my understanding is that anyone that's a victim of a sexual assault, regardless of age or gender, this is a safe space for their voice to be heard. If your schedule allows, and I will coordinate with the board secretary, Commander Blackwell, who oversees our major crimes division, I'm confident she would love to host you and give you a tour. Matter of fact, this entire body of the room of this space up there, so that you can see it and certainly answer any questions from our special victims unit as to the room's purpose.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Hayes.
My pleasure, ma'am.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Commissioner Burton.
Through the chief, I have some questions. There's been some time now. I call for the video of a Wayne State University graduate by the name of Nikila Wallace, who was placed in a chokehold by Detroit police. And I never saw that video, nor have this board saw the video. And I'm still requesting that video. As a member of the policy subcommittee and the past chair of that committee, as well as we saw in the media where a gentleman allegedly shot 30-some times by the Detroit police, and I think later on it came out it was 18 times. We still, as a board, as a body, still calling for that video as well. As well as we look at what occurred in Grand Rapids with Patrick Olola. They released that video, immediately. But here in Detroit, America's blackest, poorest city, like this city here, where the police is involved in the community 24/7, 7 days a week. We know we got some officers out there that really love and care about the community. but we worried more about those that don't have the same love and respect for our community as we do. And so therefore, we still calling for the video. I like to see the video about Nikila Wallace, a young Wayne State graduate who was placed in the chokehold. And also, what's the gentleman that was shot 30 sometimes? Porter Burks. A number of us at this body still have not seen that video. Commissioner Moore raised it several times. Commissioner Linda Bernard has raised it several times. I've raised it along with Minister Eric Blunt from Sacred Heart and so many others, including Brenda Hill, the late Brenda Hill, who used to come in these meetings quite regularly. And so as a commissioner, as a member of this community, I'm calling for the video. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I want to say one quick thing to the chief.
Quickly, Commissioner Banks.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Listen to my colleague, Commissioner Bernard. It seems like you have accomplished history, DC.
Yes.
And I just want to commend you for that. Because a man making history, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of determination. So bless you. Blessings on you and your household.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Excellent. All right, now we'll move on to public comment, oral communication and public comment. Mr. Brown, how many do we have?
And Mr. Chair, at this time, there are currently 8 speakers.
Okay.
Call them.
Begin.
Through the chair.
Yes, Commissioner Burton.
No disrespect, I'm sorry. We passed a motion some time ago that we give citizens up to an hour to plug into the meeting for public comments. So they still have approximately 19 minutes. If you still want to proceed early, that's fine, but we still want to be able to get them an hour in, because the hour, 4 o'clock was the cutoff.
Yep, duly noted.
Thanks.
Go right ahead, Mr. Brown.
Okay, Mr. Chair, your first 2 speakers would be Minister Eric Blunt, followed by Ms. Fredia Butler.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
Many of you heard and saw my frustrations with this quorum trick that sometimes is played on this board, but I'm more horrified at the leadership of this board. Reverend Dr. Holly, your corruption is well documented, so we'll move away from you. But Reverend Presley, before you were chairperson, you pushed through a vote for approval of the license plates reader. Only after a brief description and a one-sided point of view by the Detroit Police Department. You couldn't wait just 1 week to hear an opposing point of view from Board Secretary Shaw. So you invited this corruption, and yes, I'll call it evil. Reverend Lance Watson says, evil takes you to places you don't intend to go. It makes you stay longer than you intended to be there. So, as you did that, shortly you were promoted, voted in as chairperson without you even being there. The puppeteers saw in you a vessel of their corruption, and they promoted you. They elevated you to this new position of chairpersonship. So don't be surprised when you see craziness happen on this board. It is part of the fabric and the culture of this board. And it won't stop until we start getting serious about police officer misconduct, not a half hour about crime and this detail of crime and that detail of crime. It's got to stop. We got 2 new commissioners coming very soon, and I hope they can turn the corner as well, because it's got to stop. You got to stop.
Thank you.
Ms. Butler? After Ms. Butler, it'll be Ms. Bernie Smith, followed by Mr. Sharnita Williams.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As a quote from attorney Merrick Garland, I speak without fear, favor, or affection. Thursday, September 21st, 2023, your meeting did not represent us. When observing your behaviors, Commissioners Banks, Bernard, and Burton, I understand why we're in the condition that we're in. We don't have people who are dedicated to serve. Some people take a position because they like having a title or expecting to receive perks. To be effective as commissioners or leaders to serve our communities, it takes dedication. There has been a backlog of cases and will continue to be due to an overwhelming number of cases received each week, which is a problem. We have received reports that were a lack of qualified staff to investigate, and recently you were told the number of staff members needed to keep current. Because of their qualifications, you asked Mr. Akbar and Ms. White to be the interim office of chief investigator and secretary. Instead of searching outside the department, I asked why not hire them as permanent employees in those positions. It was explained that it is written in the city charter that they had to be put out of their former positions for 3 years. Before becoming interim OCI and the secretary, Mr. Akbar was supervisor investigator, and Ms. White was the executive manager of policy for the Board of Police Commissioners. You didn't hire and still do not have enough qualified staff to process and close cases. Some of you have decided to fire Mr. Akbar and Ms. White for not working fast enough to close and process.
Thank you. That's your time.
I'll continue next week.
Thank you.
Smith?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
What a blessing to be here today.
Amen.
Because last week, it was outrageous. You had commissioners walking out because they did not want to vote for a certain subject. That is outrageous. And I was very upset about it, and it was under control to me to be quiet. Glad to see you, Hernandez. I know Ford is killing you out there. My son is out there. So anyway, I cannot believe that we can continue weekly to go on and do the things that we want to do personally. And that's what it is, personally. So what I did a little investigating myself and told some people that of stature what was going on down here at this commission. And they're going to investigate it also. 3 people that I have talked about that will not do any better than what they've been doing. So what I got to do is go outside this board and let other people know what's going on this board. You have continuously badgered Reverend Holly, and for what, I don't know. The man is a religious man. He's been in politics since Coleman Young days, where I have been. So I don't know what in the world you can see that's so negative about him. He has a church, or he's retired from the church, whatever. I have never seen or heard anything negative about him, and why people continue to come up here and just degrade him all the time. Why don't you talk about the other members that are on this board that's doing wrong? But you got something against Holly, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to fight for him. Every time you talk negative about him, I'm going to fight for him, because I've known him for over 40-some years, and I've never seen anything that's negative about him in the public. So, and you, Hayes, I love you dearly. I saw him down at Greektown with his daughter marching down, not marching, but walking down Greektown, and I stopped him, and he introduced me to his daughter. We need more police like this that has a visual in the public with their children or their parents, if they have the time.
Thank you.
I'm through?
Yep.
Ms. Williams, followed by Mr. Bob Carmack, followed by Special Election Advocate Black Jesus.
Hello, everyone. I've been coming here for about the last 6 months. So all my reports that I have made, my question is, with everyone on this board, how can all this stuff that I went into the police department and made reports that you all cannot get this stuff together? A federal truck robbery, home invasion, all of that, like I stated before, is under general report. This woman been harassing me, is going on 3 years, Nikita Wilson, and I continue to complain about the Detroit Police Department stalking me, harassing me, following me in their civilian vehicles. And you all, if you're not going to do your job correctly, what's the purpose of anyone sitting up there? Because when you guys conspire to cover up a crime, it is conspiracy. How long do I need to wait before somebody contact me? Because me seeing this woman come in my house with my house keys on camera. Come on now. And then the woman who pulled the gun, I need to see that footage. Where's that at? It's a whole lot of illegal stuff going on in this city. And what's the purpose of being on this board if you choose not to do your job correctly? All this illegal DTE fraud in the city, it's ridiculous. All of this is illegal, but you guys sit up here every week and talk about all this other garbage and not address the issue, what's really going on in the city of Detroit. And no disrespect, Mom, but Coleman Young was on some corruption too. So you entitled to your opinion just like I am. And we already know how they, the difference is they just kept their mouth closed and he had loyalty people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carmack, followed by Black Jesus.
There it is.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Commander Michael McGinnis from our professional standards just stepped out in the hallway. I'd like to direct Commander McGinnis to speak with Mr.
Sure.
Williams when he comes back in.
Of course. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Bob Carmack, and I spent $614,000 on a development. I went to planning today. I asked them for my money back. I gave them $125,000 in cash. James Tate told me to, what did he say? Go back to your town. Yeah, go back to where you come from. He said that at the council meeting. All I asked for was my money. You took my money, you're going to give it back. That's a fact. I know how to collect money. I'm not a guy to mess with. I'll get you.
I want to caution you not to make threats.
I ain't making a threat. I just want my money.
Want
I
to
like to
caution
make
you.
a police report and do things right. And I make a police report here, have an investigation done, and have it legally done the correct way. That's all I'm looking for. And if there's somebody that would take my report and investigate this, I would very well appreciate it. I don't like to be told to go leave the town and go back to my town when I've been in business here since I was 10 years old. I'm 64 years old. So I've been here 54 years. And before that, I went to public schools in Detroit. I lived here all my life. I deserve respect. I deserve my money back. You can't keep my money. That's false pretenses. That's fraud. There's an investigator's report by a police officer that took it from a city worker that said I gave him $50,000. He took another $50,000 from another city worker, and another city worker did a transcript testimony. They took $25,000. I didn't get my money back. Would you be mad? $125,000? I would be mad. I'm mad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Black Jesus, followed by Mr. Ronald Foster, followed by Miss Michelle George.
Yeah, Chairman Willie Bill, this is Reuben Crowley calling you. Lawrence Akbar is trying to reach you to determine whether or not he can accept some complaints from me over at the OCI. I kind of informed him that he doesn't have an option on whether or not to take a complaint, but he feels as though he needs to get approval from his bosses over at the...
Sir, we're not going to take any more complaints from you. That's period.
Why not?
Okay.
Is there a reason?
Yes, sir. There's no other complaint that we can take from you.
Well, I have 3 other complaints that are separate and aside from the complaints.
I just indicated we're not going to take any other complaints from you, so...
Well, I have 3 complaints that are separate and aside from the complaints that I previously filed.
Thank you.
You can't just do this, Willie Bill. Who do you think man, who you think you dealing with, man? Hey, I ain't no joke, Jack. I'm the real deal, man. I don't know what's wrong with you. You keep trying to do this, man, you're gonna have a... Hey, man, come on now. You ain't got to do this. Just... Hey, look, man, this is serious, man. Why don't you just... Hey, look, Commissioner Bell, with all due respect, sir, I'm going to ask you to stand down and move out the way. Kanisha Coleman's murder is going to be addressed, sir. I don't know what you think guys think you are going to do, but I'm not the, sir, I'm different. I have means, resources, and ways.
That's Willie Bell violating the city charter numerous times in 2 minutes. But I'm going to stop this tape. At this time, he's a corrupt individual. But Michigan State Police had a case now, DPD case number 20-11112, the murder of Kanisha Coleman, not a suicide. Now, I want to take my hat off that I don't have on to Chief James White for being a stand-up dude. Not like you, Holly. Or you, Bell. Or you, Hernandez.
Thank you.
Y'all didn't do
That's
nothing.
your time.
Mr. Foster?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good. Just want to take time out with a few issues. First thing, the community meeting at District 6. I acknowledge that they're doing a really good, excellent policing over there. It was real sound on everything.
We're hearing you, but just not as loud as we can.
Yeah. Hey, District 6 appear to be doing some really excellent policing over there. They had a good presentation a couple weeks ago, and I just want to take the time out for the community and say that was a good job. Secondly, D.C. Hayes. I don't think a lot of people really give him the recognition. You don't see it a lot of times, but he is a stand-up guy. And I think from the community standpoint, he need to hear it. A lot of times wearing a badge don't allow you to get those type of respect and accolades. But just being a man, just continue doing what you're doing and being an example in your line of work. Third thing, everybody, each one of these commissioners.
Microphone, okay.
Each one of these commissioners got 6 days from today to get up to date on everything. You know, I'm prior service, and so I see straight through a lot of that stuff. If your other obligations are superseding your volunteer work, then I respectfully ask that you guys make a decision. It's not reasonable or acceptable to come up every week and not be filled in on the things that you need to do your jobs. Okay, and so these are volunteer things that you guys are choice. Just take some real accountability. I call up sometimes throughout the week, and commissioners are not available. The response I get is that they only come to board meetings. And so if you're not available in the building a lot of times, and I know that you don't have access to the files and things that you need to do your job, you just can't wait to Thursday to do it. We want and expect accountability. And just like we critical, we could praise the good as well. And so I just want to just admonish you guys and ask you guys to keep up the good work where it's good and tighten up the areas that need to be tightened up. Thank you.
Ms. George?
Thank you. As Ms. George is coming, let the record show that Commissioner Moore has joined us. Welcome.
Good afternoon, good evening to this board, honorable board.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Attorney Hayes, Deputy Chief Hayes. I just want to make a comment. First of all, Deputy Chief Hayes, I want to thank the police department for raiding that mushroom place. I was reading in the article because one of the things I was telling Mayor Duggan is that even though the voters voted for, it's illegal in the state of Michigan, but somehow it made its way to our city of Detroit. So thank you for that, because that drug is LSD. So I do want to thank the police department. That's why we're fighting. Even though the marijuana, everything's been legalized, what we're doing and what we're seeing, I'm going to a high school in a few weeks to talk to kids who's putting drugs in vaping. And I was at City Temple the other day where we had the United States Department to talk, and some of the Wayne County sheriffs, what we're seeing in the schools. So I do want to say thank you for the police department, because it's making your jobs harder. Now, I do want to address the board of police commissioners. And I'm sure you all know this. One of the reasons that you all are having problem, transparency is important. I am a member of National Action Network, with a lot of the families are in our organization. George Floyd, Ms. Carr, who did a chokehold law in the state of New York. So that's something that we're fighting about. But if there are videos that have not been released, transparency is better. We see it coming when I'm at my convention in New York, when I'm in D.C., it will come better for the board to be transparent. If there are videos that have not been released, it's okay to show it. We were in New York with Tyree Nichols' family as they get those officers in Tennessee. So I would advise, and we talk about a lot in policing in New York, release the videos. It's okay. We're working together. We work very closely with the Detroit Police Department. I pray for them. You got a praying group that pray for Chief White all the time. But I would advise to release the videos for transparency, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Just be clear, the release of videos is a Detroit Police Department issue, not the board.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, your next couple of speakers will be former Commissioner William Davis, followed by District 4 CAC member, Mr. Scotty Bowman.
And please let the record reflect that it is 4:00 p.m., and so if there aren't any other comments at this moment, that hour has expired.
Commissioner Davis?
Good afternoon. Can I be heard?
Yes, you can. Go right ahead.
Okay, I'd like to start off by saying it is very troubling that there are so many cases that was put aside, and not only should those cases all be investigated, you should find out who was in charge of OCI and who was in charge of the office there, and who gave permission for those to be set aside or not to be investigated. That in of itself raised a lot of questions about the board and whether or not those people had authorization from somebody that's sitting on that board. Also, I think it's a good step in the right direction for when the so-called leadership have meetings with the mayor. At the very least, all the board should know what was discussed and what was on the agenda. So I think that's a step in the right direction. Also, many places throughout this country, because I have contacts all over this country, when incidents happen, it does not take a year or 6 months or 3 months or 2 months to have videos released. You know, y'all should be proposing some policies as to how soon or how quickly or under what circumstances some of these videos should be released. Also, you know, this board needs to have greater transparency. And in some ways, things are more transparent, but in some ways, they haven't opened up like they should. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowman?
Mr. Bowman, are you there? Mr. Bowman? Is there another speaker?
No, Mr. Chair, he would be your last speaker.
And is he there?
Hello?
There we go. Yeah, go right ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go. I think we may have lost you again.
Still there.
Mr. Bowman, can you hear us?
A BOPC matter. And the reason it is because the Board of Police Commissioners has the power of the subpoena, and the Board of Police Commissioners has the responsibility of investigating non-criminal complaints. Therefore, they have the authority to request copies of any video that might pertain to a non-criminal complaint, and the department has an obligation to provide it. If the department does not recognize that obligation, the BOPC should subpoena those videos. And because it seems like a lot of times commissioners aren't getting access to videos when they request them, I would suggest that the board should automatically subpoena every single video any one member of the Board of Police Commissioners requests. Furthermore, promotions. The BOPC is the final word on promotions. Therefore, if there's a workaround in contracts, you need to make sure the contracts do not have said workaround. And since the board sets policies, you need to make it against policy for any member of the police department to do anything toward working around the charter when it comes to contracts. There should be no workarounds in the charter, and it should be insubordinate and cause for termination for any member to try to circumvent the board's authority in the department. That's how you do it. use all the authority you have, however, by whatever means necessary, in order to do your jobs and to exert the powers you have as an oversight board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that was your last speaker.
Thank you. For all of those who made public comments, we appreciate your participation in our meeting today. At this time, we'll move on to the report for the board secretary and incoming communications. Secretary Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your incoming correspondence are outlined in the agenda. In addition, I have several updates for the board. Since appointed as the secretary to the board, I have been addressing and sharing inconsistencies as they come. However, commissioners have been requesting a summary and additional context around that, and so I will provide some of that now. The first one is that I have not received personnel files for any BOPC or OCI staff except for 4 from OCI, and the files have been missing since March 20th, 2023. I've been working closely with Chief Investigator Warfield and Mr. Brown to build new personnel files for the staff in keeping with management best practices. In addition, it was discovered that salary increases for 2 staff members were submitted for processing with no record of a board's approval last year, and I've been working diligently to ensure that any requested changes in salary or budget are first approved by the vote of the board going forward. In addition, we continue to work with class compensation to determine staff members whose salaries should be adjusted and bring those recommendations to the board for approval, as has been in discussion over the last several months here. In addition, I've asked Executive Manager Freeze to conduct a payroll audit due to inconsistencies that I've seen in payroll and financial reporting. Here are a few examples. In taking a look at the BOPC monthly financial reports that I received from finance, one thing that's been discovered is the staff member holding a position with no record of board appointment, no apparent work product, and initially contracted as a GIS analyst and then on staff as a legal assistant for a period of time. Also found was repeated staff payroll payments that well exceeded and sometimes doubled the base salary for exempt employees that are not eligible for overtime. In addition, an employee showing promoted with no record of the board's appointment of that individual as well. Again, I'm ensuring that going forward, appointments come before the board for approval first. In addition, Executive Manager Drew Freeze will hopefully uncover through his audit an explanation for the excess payroll. The next item I'll share is around investigator positions. So investigator positions are exempt, meaning that according to the Fair Labor Standards Act, they are not eligible for overtime compensation. Under special circumstances, the City of Detroit makes exceptions to pay overtime for special projects, such as the OCI Backlog Case Reduction Project, which was run in 2022, which according to HR and Labor Relations was approved through the end of 2022. Upon my appointment and discovering that OCI staff members were still being compensated for overtime beyond the approval of the project, I did end the overtime for OCI effective April 17th of this year. In addition, the overtime project required that employees complete a minimum of 18 cases per month, 15 of which shall be overdue cases. So I did a spot check audit to see the number of cases closed by those who were working overtime during the month of March of this year. And of the 9 OCI employees who worked overtime, none of the employees closed 18 cases in the month. The highest close was 11 and the lowest was 0. These are just some examples of some of the administrative inconsistencies that have been found and changes that have been made to make improvements to monitoring and managing the activity of the board and staff. In addition, I will move on to outstanding reporting requests of DPD. Please see the attached outstanding DPD requests for 9/28/2023 in your packets. Just want to bring the following requests to the board's attention. There are 4 requests that have not been fulfilled despite DPD's commitment date on these. The Porter Burks footage, which was committed on May 16th of this year. DPD members suspended with pay, which was committed by August 30th of this year. Domestic violence and homicide correlation was committed by 9/6 of this year, and facial recognition updates on the investigation of Ms. Woodruff's arrest, that was committed by September 24th of this year, and these items have not yet been received, and we're waiting on that from the chief's office. In regards to staffing updates, several questions have come up regarding the staff's recommendation to submit a position amendment for the legal assistant, and I'd like to add some context around the rationale for that recommendation for the benefit of the board. Currently, the board is budgeted for an attorney and a legal assistant. We know the challenges the board has had with appointing an attorney. Similarly, the board has not received approval from Corporation Counsel to appoint a legal assistant either. So that much-needed position also remains open. Classification and Compensation has completed a job evaluation on the attorney position and the legal assistant position. You can find their findings in your packets behind tab number 6. Based on their analysis, a more appropriate position will be Executive Administrative Assistant 2, understanding that the candidate selected would need to have legal experience and would be expected to support the board in legal matters, and once an attorney is appointed, support that attorney as well. The budgeted salary recommendation of $65,000 is the same as the currently budgeted $65,000 for legal assistance, so there will be no change to the overall budget. This is a recommendation for a simple position amendment to change title. Mr. Chair, if you will allow, I can address any questions commissioners may have regarding this recommendation.
Thank you. Again, we're hoping that we can change the title, and I know there was some unreadiness last week, and so if you have any questions for Secretary Shaw that might provide you clarity on this potential motion, I encourage you to ask them now. Commissioner Bernard.
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman, our board secretary is very methodical in her report, much more so than I would be. And I just want to sort of go over a couple of the things that she indicated.
Commissioner Bernard, if you could keep these questions relative to the staffing updates, and then we can have a general
the staffing.
About her report.
I support your staffing recommendation. It's consistent in every other major commission and so forth and department in the city has a, quote, legal assistant to assist them and their lawyer, because most departments also have an in-house lawyer with respect to the duties of their body. So I support your request.
Any further questions?
Just a question.
Vice Chair Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, although we know that our need is investigators, those files, is there any way that is it possible that the people that we're talking about hiring legal assistants, can they also do other things besides what, in terms of job description, so they can help us with that, Mr. Chairman?
The
Secretary?
Thank you, through the chair. So Commissioner Holly, through the chair, are you asking if the legal assistant can also assist with processing cases, or?
I think it's what I'm asking.
Well, let's just be clear of what we're attempting to do, and so we're wanting to change them to an Executive Assistant 2 position, and so the question would be, is that Executive Assistant 2 position allowing them to also work on our backlog?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
So that's not exactly the skill set that would be hired for that position, and certainly the backlog is going to require definitely more hands than one.
Got you.
And as the board will see in the budget recommendation, once that's brought before the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're so welcome. And again, that presentation that was postponed until there's a meeting with the Budget Committee is still in your packet. And so you have an opportunity to review it, and there are some recommendations around how we can fulfill the staff needs for the backlog.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Burton.
You know, I feel like the citizens of Detroit do not want to see the title change, you know, from legal assistant to administrative assistant 2. I think that, you know, we should keep the position what it is, legal assistant, and also bring on an attorney where that legal assistant can assist.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Banks.
Chair, I got that motion to remove the legal assistant to executive.
It's in order. It's in order. You can make your motion.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to amend the motion. I move to amend the budget to remove the legal assistant and add executive administrative assistant to pending approval from the budget, finance, and HR.
There's second.
Second.
Been properly moved in second that we amend the budget to remove the legal assistant and add executive administrative to pending approval from budget, finance, and HR. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please.
I'd like to amend the motion, Mr. Chairman.
That is your right.
I like to move this line item to the policy subcommittee.
Well, that's a separate motion. So that's not the amendment of this motion. That would be a separate motion, which is not in order.
Sure.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, again, to remind you, it is the motion to amend the budget to remove the legal assistant and to add executive administrative assistant to pending approval from budget, finance, and HR. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose?
Oppose.
All right, so the ayes have it. That motion passes.
I don't think everybody voted at the table, Mr.
We
Chairman.
all did one
It
by not
was a
saying it.
majority vote. It passed. At this time, is there any further discussion? I mean, Secretary Shaw, do you have anything else in your presentation?
No, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Okay, so that's the conclusion of her report. So are there any comments for her report at large? She talked about some inconsistencies, and there was one more item that she discussed. So if you have anything relative to Secretary Shaw's report, you can ask that now. Commissioner Bernard.
My fellow and sister commissioners and Chairman Presley, her report is absolutely devastating. Not only were the 256 cases signed off on by a person who worked for us at that time, but they were also signed off on by a commissioner to summarily close these cases. Secondly, the issue regarding personnel files, and I say this as a former CEO and president and CEO of Legal Services, the fact that we have an affidavit from our longest-serving employee, Mr. Brown, down there at the end of this table, who says that the personnel files were removed from all the files for every single employee, including obviously data regarding emergency contacts, if I fell down and had a heart attack or any of these things, anything could happen to me at work. The entire personnel file was removed by one of these persons, and he gave the person the key. Only one person had the key to personnel files for the BOPC. How does this happen? It's unthinkable. The issues with respect to the cases and for a board member to sign off on the closure of 200-some cases that have not been investigated is incredible to me. The issues that she raised concerning salary, how do I go from my paycheck of $3,000 a week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, to $10,000 the next week? How's that happen? With no documentation and no backup. How do several people get appointed to positions that not only does this board knows nothing about, HR knows nothing about? How do we pay a person, quote, who has this fake title of legal assistant and then moved into a management role at, what, $90,000? Something like this. And then the coup de grace for me was not only the payment of overtime, which greatly offended you. I saw it when you were talking about it. For nearly 4 months this year, from January to April till Shaw comes in and cuts it off for work that's not being done at all. There's no work, nothing. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the fraud in the payroll. It's just unbelievable. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed, and all of us are guilty for not being obviously spending more time or examining the underlying detail by having confidence in people who did not deserve our confidence.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question.
Commissioner Moore.
And I came in, thank you, sir. I came in late, so I don't know what discussion took place prior to me getting here. However, you say a commissioner signed off on these?
That is correct.
So maybe the commissioner gave permission to conduct this type of investigation?
No. The commissioner wholesalely signed off on all these cases with no investigation. One commissioner, not the board.
Thank you, sir.
None of this, incidentally, that I've discussed has ever been seen by the board.
Any further questions or comments?
Mike,
Vice Chair Holly?
you know, I don't know. Mr. Chairman, I thank you as always. I'm always concerned about commissioners speaking in public about incidents that perhaps are not always, they don't have all the facts. I know that perhaps some of the things that commissioners saying could be true. I know some of them are not. But what gives me a concern, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your leadership so much, and that is that I got citizens listening to this. We have this audience that's listening to this, and when someone walk up here and says corruption and the kind of things that they are accusing us of, I feel like we for the most part are adding to this with this kind of this insidious comments that commissioners make that should be basically in-house and come out publicly. But I can understand why they're saying that we are what many of them are saying, because we're adding to this. And sometimes the big problem I have in all of my life in Detroit, and many times, is that we take the work, we don't really do with the best of us. We always basically try to go with the worst of us, whether it's the city council, whether it's the mayor, whether this board, the police department, or for the citizens of Detroit. But I am concerned about some of the things that the commissioner is saying. But I do feel like I know for myself that 50% of this is not true. But again, my concern is that when we say something like this and get it with passion, as she does, as the commissioner does, it gives me concern in terms of the community, how they really perceive us. And that's my concern. I know you'd be glad when my 3 months is up. But I'm just saying to you that I'm just concerned how we view ourselves and how basically we cut ourselves and how we backdoor ourselves. And I just concerned about it, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for allowing me to take these 3.5 minutes.
Your point is well taken. And so to be clear, this report was requested by the board.
Yes.
Okay, last week we asked our secretary to provide us with the inconsistencies that she and chief investigator were seeing. We tried to do this without it, but the board requested this information.
Right.
And then on top of that, again, it has been stated that, you know, some of that might be factual and not. Again, she's only lifting the inconsistencies, but those documents that you can ask for at request.
I'm talking about my commissioner.
Yeah, no, I'm about to explain that. Those documents that you can ask for at request is
Right
what
there.
she's using for the basis of her commentary. So there is documentation to support what has been lifted. Now, again, there are ongoing investigations to suggest who exactly was responsible and to be clear about the processes, but the inconsistencies are indeed there. And I mean, I share, and I think all of our fellow commissioners share in the embarrassment that it is to have this to come to light. And we've even explored closed sessions, which, obviously the Open Meetings Act doesn't provide for that in these certain instances. But I'm reminded of something my mom told me when I had to clean my room. She said, sometimes, son, it gets worse before it gets better. And maybe the airing out of what is actually going on helps us to be clear about what we need to do to rectify it. But I share in your embarrassment. Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Banks.
Yes, through the chair. Dr. Holly, you've been a father to this board. You've been a father to me. Appreciate you and love you, man. You helped me make that adjustment. I'm still adjusting, but you were a big part of it. Through the chair, what Commissioner Bernard mentioned, that the one commissioner signed off on that. What's the standard procedure, that we do that as a committee? Can one commissioner sign off on something, or does it have to be a group of us or a committee?
To be a board vote.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, it's actually unclear. I think that's what's being
what I'm talking about.
investigated.
Board vote.
It's unclear.
No, I think, excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Holly?
and then I'll leave you alone. I think the concern is that one person, I sign off on reports. The question that I think the file is that they have not been investigated. That's the problem. That I understand it from my report.
Yeah, again, what's unclear, Vice Chair Holly, is that there was a process that was created by previous leadership, and that process was signed off on by a commissioner.
Okay.
And so I think that's what's being discussed. And now we're being made aware of this process and finding it to be unreasonable to our expectations. But it wasn't as if on each of these files there is one commissioner's signature on all of them being closed. There was a process created, and there is a commissioner who signed off on that process, who at the time was the chair of the Citizens Complaint Committee. And so again, there might have been some legal opinion. Again, it's unclear. It's unclear. That's why the investigation is ongoing. But what is clear is that now that we're aware of it, I think most of us are unsatisfied with how it rolled out. Any further questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Hearing none, we will now move on to our announcements. I believe I lost my agenda here.
That's where we are, Mr. Chair.
Okay, announcements.
The board's next meeting is Thursday, October 5th at 3 p.m. at Detroit Public Safety Headquarters. And the next community meeting is Thursday, October 12th at 6:30 p.m. The 7th Precinct will be hosting at St. John Presbyterian Church, 1961 East Lafayette in Detroit.
All right, thank you. And so now we move on to new business. And under new business, we have a closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268A. The department's request for the board to consider administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for Officer, how would you say that, Jawan Brown, a badge number 563 assigned to downtown services. So the chair entertains a motion to enter into closed session.
So moved.
So move. Second.
All those in,
Forgive me, Commander McGinnis, through the chair. There was requests for 2 closed sessions on the agenda, and we have issues with both. So if you would like, I could present some additional information to you now.
you had resistance to the closed session, or these are matters that will be deliberated in the closed session?
No, I think it causes us to not be able to proceed with closed session at today's meeting.
Okay, yes, we'll receive that information now.
So in regards to Officer Juwan Brown, Madam Secretary had sent some questions that the board had to me last week. I failed to respond promptly to those responses to answer those questions until I sent them up my command this week. So I don't think the board has had the opportunity to review those questions or answers as of yet, as well as the DPOA and the attorney representing the officer. So with that, I respectfully request that closed session be postponed until next week.
Okay, that's one. Is that for Officer Juwan Brown?
That is, sir, yes.
Okay, and then the other?
The other is for Officer Smith. I think it's Javier Smith, if I remember correctly. He is not present here. I don't know why he's not present. However, he does intend on, he's been present for the last 2 sessions that his case has been held up on a closed session. And he intends on speaking during the closed session. And I've been advised that he's not here, but he respectfully requests that it be adjourned till next week as well.
Okay, well, I'll leave that up to my colleagues to determine whether or not they want to continue with that closed session in his absence. I think we should keep in mind that we were the reason why closed session didn't occur last week. But again, I'll leave that to my colleagues. Secretary Shaw?
So moved.
Well, through the chair, you have a motion on the floor, just as a reminder where we are.
Yeah, for
You have a
closed.
motion on the floor for a closed session for Juwan Brown currently.
Correct.
So we're moving to adjourn it?
And so who moved to the motion?
I did.
Can you repeal that motion?
Yes, I move to adjourn both closed sessions that you have
Not
just.
to adjourn, to repeal your motion to enter into closed session.
Appeal my,
Repeal your motion.
I repeal my motion for a closed session. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. I'm not a good parliamentarian.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thanks, sir.
All right, so with that, is there any other new business?
Do I need a motion to phone them, though? Two sessions.
Through the chair,
I think that we should have a motion to postpone pending the information that was just received.
Yes.
Can the chair entertain a motion to postpone this item of Police Officer Juwan Brown until next week?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we will postpone it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there any objection? Any discussion, rather? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion passed to postpone this
Mr.
item
Ch-
until next week.
Mr. Chairman, and I'd also, if you don't mind, that the gentleman that was speaking, please convey our apology for the delays, but there was just business that we had to take care of as an organization for him coming twice and us not being prepared to move forward. So please convey that to both gentlemen. Thank you, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
That's okay. Yes, Commissioner Burton.
I'd like to make a motion. Is it okay at this time, or?
Yes, it's okay at this time.
Mr. Chairman, it's out of order. What if we have the second.
We postponed it,
We got another
so
one.
now we're in we're still under new business.
Right.
The other one is on unfinished business. So if his motion is pertaining to new business, it's in order. Yeah, Commissioner Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we suspend facial recognition for 72 hours so we can investigate the Detective Bureau as board members.
Is there a second? With no second, there is no motion. Any other new business? Hearing none, we'll now move to unfinished business. And so under unfinished business, we have a closed session pursuant to Section 8 of the Open Meetings Act for Police Commissioner Joseph Mosley. But I want to direct the commissioner's attention to your packet as we have received.
Mr. Chair, you say police commissioner, Joe. You said police commissioner.
I'm just reading here. That was a mistake, but it says Police Commission Joseph Mosley because he works for the Police Commission as an
Investigator,
investigator.
Police Commission.
Oh, okay.
OCI.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I
Okay.
didn't know.
All right. Come on. Let's get together, y'all.
Good job. Good
Yeah,
job,
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Chair.
Good job.
Right.
It just
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resignation of Joseph Mosley via his attorney, James Mikowski and Kama Patel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor to accept Joseph Mosley's resignation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, that motion passes. His resignation is accepted. Okay, so we did that one. Now, we have a closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268A of the Department's request of the board to consider administrative leave without pay but with medical benefits for police officer Rakan Hamawi, badge number 2102, assigned to downtown services.
Through the chair, I just have a point of clarity.
Yes.
As I understood it before a couple weeks ago, both of these, so items B and C under unfinished business are the same case, two different individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any kind of impediment from us holding item B?
Well, I guess we're getting ready to find out.
Yes, item B is no longer necessary as Officer Hamawi submitted his resignation paperwork today.
Okay.
So he is no longer an employee of the Detroit Police Department.
All right. That's B under unfinished business. And so lastly, under unfinished business, and we got that information, but the chair entertains a motion to accept the postponement of this closed session for Police Officer Javier Smith.
Move.
Is there a second? It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor in postponing the closed session for Police Officer Javier Smith until next week signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, that motion passed. All right, and so with that, we are now to the consideration of the appointment status of BOPC Executive Manager, BOPC Executive Manager of Policy, Melanie White. Again, this is the third time that this is coming to the board. The first time you all wanted a opinion from the law department and HR, which you received. And then last week you wanted a sense of the inconsistencies that our board secretary and our chief investigator discovered, and you received that. And so I hope that today that we are ready to at least make our position one way or another concerning the employment status of BOPC Emergency Manager Policy, Melanie White. Is there a motion?
The motion is to terminate effective today Ms. White's current leave status, and that she has been on paid leave for nearly a year, and that we discontinue her employment with the BOPC. That may not be the right way to say it, but.
Or, yeah, before the motion is restated, I do want to get that clarification. Is it to terminate or to unappoint?
Unappoint. I'm sorry.
Hold on, the Secretary Shar is going to provide us that
I
clear.
apologize.
Through the chair, for this particular motion, the appropriate language would be to move, one moment. It would be, I move that the employee's appointment to title end effective and then a date.
Okay, and so the motion on the floor is for Melanie White's appointment to BOPC Executive Manager Poly position be ended immediately. Is there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion?
Right here, Mr. Chair, you got a discussion right here.
Commissioner Banks.
It's still not enough evidence to, I know, Dr. Holly, you mentioned last week that was in the paperwork, but it's still not enough. Because we dealing with people's livelihood here. And the law department did not give enough information to keep her or to release her. So.
Respectfully.
Not a law department issue.
I feel like we might be looking for somebody else to make a decision for us.
I'm waiting on the IG department, IG statement.
And that sounds like somebody else we're waiting on to make a decision for us. When it is in our right, as the board, this is what the law department stated, to remove these persons, check this out, without cause. There's no cause that is absolutely needed to remove them. That's within our right. But you all asked for more information. Let me clarify. And they brought the inconsistencies that they've seen. And under the previous leadership, we've discovered that there were over, what we voted on today, 256 cases that were just closed without investigation, that may go up to 900 cases that were closed without investigation. We've heard inconsistencies about people receiving pay of overtime when they were ineligible to receive pay for overtime. We received information about people being promoted without any influence of this board. So again, it's up to you, really, to make a decision whether you bring them back or not. But I think that at this point, again, it's the third time around, we really should make a decision one way or the other.
And Mr. Chairman, could you possibly have Mr. Brown read his affidavit?
I won't do that.
Okay.
Well, hold
Commissioner
on.
Bell, through the chair, Commissioner Bell.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't given Ms. White opportunity to speak openly or closed session in reference to this matter. That was allegations that's ongoing, and that's not good practice, that we give due process to police officers over and over again, but we are not willing to take the time to give our own employees the opportunity to come before this body, any fashion or form. They were suspended, not by this board, by the past chair. As you say, I indicated to you last week, you can reinstate them, but you said two wrongs don't make a right.
Don't make it right.
But that was a wrong, and that is not how we should operate, and we haven't operated in this fashion in the past. We get to all type of allegation over and over again at this, but no factual, and there's a process. And you heard the unreadiness of the DPD, and I think we should have unreadiness for this body, for our own staff.
That's duly noted, and just want to be clear that we can bring them back or we can let them go. So again, that's the will of the board. I just don't feel like it's appropriate for us to remain them to be suspended with pay. I think it's going, what was it, March? Since March? Are we going to be in October? And I mean, we've had this conversation twice, and this is my first time having them to come in. I mean, I'm just wanting us to be comprehensive about what it is that we're asking for. So we're not coming back doing this again.
No. Mr. Chairman, please let Mr. Brown read his affidavit. He's the longest-serving employee for the commission.
Mr.
I
Chair.
Wait a
would
minute,
not do that.
Mr. Banks.
Commissioner Burton.
Last week, I made a motion here at this table calling for a closed-door session on this line item, but also allow those individuals that we're speaking on today to also have opportunity to be present so they can speak before the board.
And if my recollection serves me correctly, that motion failed.
Correct. Please let Mr. Brown
I
state.
believe that motion passed, but we can find out through the secretary.
It did not pass.
That motion passed last week.
No, it didn't.
It did not pass.
That amendment did fail.
Commissioner
Do
Banks.
you have a record of that? Can you let us know what the vote count on
It's
that,
in your
please?
packet under your minutes. Commissioner Banks.
I'm asking the secretary.
And the chair is responding to you.
And I'm asking the secretary who works
Point
for
of
the
order,
board.
Commissioner Burton. Thank you
For
so
point
much.
of information.
Yes, and I told you the information, and the chair has the right to respond to you. Commissioner Banks.
Thank you, through the chair. What Mr. Brown has to say, will it impact this case?
Yes.
What I don't want to do, and I feel like it's completely inappropriate, is to try to place on a staff member your decision one way or the other. We're not going to do that.
Well, I'm just asking.
They haven't been informed of it.
I'll
They haven't
respond.
seen his statement.
Yeah.
Well,
You
the
know,
statement can be shared, but as I've stated, I will not scapegoat the decision of this board onto a staff member. Any
Okay.
further questions, discussion?
I'm all set.
All right. Well, there is a motion that's on the floor to end the employment as executive manager policy of BOPC, the term of Melanie White, immediately. All those in favor, please.
Mr. Chair, just
Secretary
to,
Shaw.
and the term is appointment, not employment,
Sorry,
just for the record.
appointment. Okay, so let me restate the motion. The motion is again to end the appointment to executive manager policy for BOPC, Melanie White, term immediately.
I'm asking for a roll call.
Roll call vote has been called.
Through the chair, have we gotten a legal opinion?
Yes, we have.
Have we gotten?
Discussion has commenced.
Lord have mercy.
We're in
Have
the
we got
a vote has been called.
The IG report?
Secretary
Not
Shaw,
me.
roll call. Excuse
Tell
me,
you how to
Commissioner
vote.
Bernard. Point of order. Secretary Shaw, roll call.
I'd like to make a motion at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Your motion is out of order. We're in the process of voting. Discussion has ended. Secretary Shaw,
Chairperson Quantes Presley,
yes.
Vice Chair Jim Holly,
No.
Commissioner Linda Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Cedric Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Willie Bell,
No.
Commissioner Willie Burton,
Can you come back to Commissioner Burton?
yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lisa Carter,
No.
Commissioner Ricardo Moore,
No.
Commissioner Annie Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Jesus Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Willie Burton.
I'm gonna vote present today. I did call for information, and I'd like to see that information at this time.
What did he say?
He votes present. I'm not for sure what to do with that. I guess we would take that as an abstention. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Commissioner Burton. Is an abstention appropriate?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I did call for documentation that I'd like to see, and I have not seen those as of yet.
Fail.
So I'm present right now, and
He's not voting. That's an abstention.
All right. So with that abstention, it is 5 yes, 5 no's, and so with the tie, that motion fails.
I did not say, I did not vote abstention, and I didn't vote one way or another. But what I am saying, I'd like to call for a 5-minute recess so I can go ahead and read these documents once the secretary present those to me. But I did call for a closed door session last week.
So the motion to end the appointment of Melanie White has failed. So is there another motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
Carter.
Chairman, I
move-
didn't vote.
Point of order, Commissioner Carter.
I move that the suspension with pay of Executive Manager Melanie White be rescinded, and that she be returned to work effective tomorrow.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
There's a motion on the floor that the suspension of
point of order. I was trying to vote, and I
Executive
didn't get to put my
manager.
vote.
Monday, I'm sorry,
No.
Monday.
There's a motion on the floor to end the suspension of BOPC Executive Manager of
What
Policy
was the
Melanie
result of
White.
the last vote? If
5-5. It was
No,
wants
I
to
didn't
vote.
vote. I wanted to vote, but you moved on, Mr. Chairman.
Vote.
It's too late, sir. We
No, it's
move
not
on.
too late.
point of order.
It's not too.
We are beyond that motion.
Yes.
A new motion has been made and seconded, okay? And that motion is to end the suspension
Mr. Chairman,
of BOPC Executive Manager Policy Melanie White and to return her back to her previous position by Monday.
Mr. Chairman,
That's been probably second. Any discussion?
Vote was.
Who seconded it?
Mr. Chairman,
Bill. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Commissioner Burton.
I was still under the previous vote. It was still on me. I was making my decision on how I'm voting.
Point of order.
And I like to.
Comments are not germane to the current motion. We're under a new motion now. Do you have any discussion under the new motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Chairperson Quantes Presley,
No.
Vice Chair Jim Holly,
Yes.
Commissioner Linda Bernard,
No.
Commissioner Cedric Banks,
No.
Commissioner Willie Bell,
Yes.
Commissioner Willie Burton,
I was trying to weigh in on the first
No.
situation, and the chairperson didn't allow me to get my vote out. So I did acknowledge that I am present. I'm still making my mind up. I wanted to weigh in. The chairperson prevented me.
You can come back to
From
Commissioner
waiting.
Burton, Secretary.
And so I feel like
Thank you, Commissioner Burton. We're in the voting. Your comments are out of order.
I feel like you're a
Your comments
chairperson.
are out of order.
Commissioner Lisa Carter,
To remind you, this is a motion to end the suspension immediately, bringing her back by Monday.
Yes.
Commissioner Ricardo Moore,
No.
Commissioner Annie Holt,
No.
Commissioner Jesus Hernandez?
No.
Commissioner Willie Burton?
All right, so what's that? With 7
7.
noes and 3 yeses? Did I get that math right?
Yes, Mr.
That
Chair.
motion fails. So it is the will of this board to keep Melanie White suspended with pay.
Thanks.
E, the consideration of the appointment status of OCI Supervising Investigator Lawrence Akbar. Now, let me provide this information because this may move you one way or the other. Unlike Melanie White's position, Senior Investigator Akbar had a, I don't know what the direct, accurate term is, but almost like a protected position. So if we choose to remove him from supervising investigator, he returns back to another role. Am I correct, Secretary Shaw?
That is what was advised by HR, correct?
Okay.
Well, that he has the option,
Yeah, he has the option
the recall right.
to return back to a prior position that he held prior to being OCI supervising investigator.
Mr.
But is there a
Chairman.
motion? Commissioner Bell?
Is there any documentation of what was indicated?
Yes, it's in the HR document that was provided to us last week.
Last week.
Last week?
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a motion? Yep.
Well,
Or discussion, rather.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Holt?
So, thank you, Chair. In that we cannot unappoint him as we've attempted to do in the case of the first staff person, would he have the option to come back to OCI?
Through the chair, would you like me to clarify what we were provided?
Let me
with?
take a stamp
Okay.
at it. Unless there is a motion by this board, well, if there is a motion by this board to end his suspension, then yes, he can and will be expected to return back to OCI. Does that clarify?
Yes, it does.
But we have a chief investigator.
Yes, no, he would come back as supervising investigator. That's the role that he was suspended under, as a supervising investigator. Is there a motion? Hearing no motion, there is no action. And so now we move to adjournment.
So moved.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
And a motion, I
second,
didn't understand
second.
your question.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, this meeting is now adjourned.
I give up. I give